Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. I'm your host, Jesse Showalter, and we are kicking off our very first day. It's the welcome episode of the XD Daily Creative Challenge. We got people jumping in the chat right now, so if you're on YouTube, come over to Behance. Join us because we've got Sam Peterson moderating in the chat. We've got Mallory Dirk, we got Josh Baldwin, Laura Steneva, Mercurio Forte. Tell me where you're coming from and maybe give me an emoji. I said thumbs up because that's my favorite emoji, but give me your favorite emoji in the chat and let me know where you are coming from. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. We just got done with Howard Pinsky, so let's take a look at the schedule really quickly as more people are jumping into the chat. We've had a full day of amazing design content getting started with my homegirl Julia Masalska. There's Jason Levine was talking video, Jesus Ramirez on Photoshop, drawing and painting with Mike Jones, Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with Claudie. We just got done doing some web design. Howard Pinsky was doing some amazing video game like web design. He was doing 3D transforms, and I downloaded this really cool plugin because of him. So if you didn't watch it after this stream, go back and watch his stream. But don't miss out on Doodle Therapy with Susan Lin and Alice Lee coming up after me. It's been a full day of fun stuff. Let's take a look at what is the XD Daily Creative Challenge. Maybe you've never done it before. Maybe you're new to it. Maybe you're a return customer and you love the XD Daily Creative Challenge. Well, it doesn't matter where you're coming from or what your skill set or skill level is. The XD Daily Creative Challenge is for you. We got more people jumping in the chat like Tia and Amber and Valentina and Cornell and Josh are back. So the XD Daily Creative Challenge, you can learn more about it. You're already here, but let's take a look really quick at behance.net/challenge/XD. And if you want to get started, you just hit that big blue button that says hello to your name and take the challenge. And here's what happens in the XD Daily Creative Challenge. Each day you're going to receive a challenge, and we can see as we scroll down this page, each of those challenges are going to unlock. The first one is going to be unlocking tomorrow, and it'll be available to you. And then you'll join the community chat. That's what we're doing right here. But also you want to make sure you jump over and you join the XD Discord server that has over 35,000 last time I checked creatives on it. This is a place for you to post your work and find feedback and get critique and make friends. This is also in the current challenge tab where you're going to be posting your work from each challenge so that you can get it reviewed, like some of these folks that posted some amazing work there. We're going to be reviewing it at the end of each day starting tomorrow. So that's the second part. Third part, you're going to watch the Daily Show right here with me. I'll be right here, same time, same place, same person, same quirky dude every day for the next 2 weeks, as Monday through Friday as we do the Daily Creative Challenge. And then you want to share your work not only in the Discord community chat, you want to share it on Behance as well. And you want to do that making sure that you use the hashtag, let's see if I make sure I have the hashtag correct, XD Creative Challenge when you're posting your Behance work. That's the one that you want to use. So Sam Peterson is posting some helpful links right down in the chat. Make sure you grab a hold of those. And then throughout the chat, make sure that you ask questions because we'll answer them as we go. Make sure your work is posted and make sure you have a good attitude and a drink nearby so that you're ready to go and do this thing. Hey, with that being said, why don't we jump over to my desktop here and let's take a look at Adobe XD. So again, if you're not used to Adobe XD, maybe you were just watching Howard's stream and you were like, wow, he's doing amazing stuff. How do I do that stuff? Let's do a little bit of a tour of XD and what you should know as you're getting started. And then let's take a project and start exporting some assets and let's start posting to Behance. How about that? So I have Adobe XD open and you can do that just by tapping it here in your dock or wherever you have it on either a PC or an Apple computer. It's platform compatible on both. And I'm just gonna hit a new project. Now you can do this. What's really interesting is, I don't know if you've ever really paid attention to this, but we have cloud documents and we also have, if you look over here on my desktop, local documents, right? So you can do both, either or. You don't have to always save it on your machine. You can have it up in the cloud, and that's a nice way to keep things connected. XD is also really, really compatible and interchangeable with the rest of the Creative Suite. So if we click our little Creative Cloud application and open that up, you can see we have all the different apps in Adobe, and you can see XD is one of them. But when we go over to our work, we have things like libraries that we're going to be talking about. Those libraries are accessible not only in XD, but also in Photoshop and Illustrator and Premiere Pro. So that's really, really cool. You can discover some fun stuff over here, and then there's a marketplace as well. So I don't know if you've played around with the Creative Cloud app, but it's really, really cool, really fun. We can start a new project in just a custom size, or we can choose any one of these specific sizes. Like for instance, we could start with an iPhone or a Google Pixel or an iPad. You could go web size like 19 by 20, or maybe you wanted a little bit of a different size. And we even have some social media sizes. And then again, you have all of your documents that you've been working on that are cloud saved or recent local documents as well. But we're just going to open up a blank 1920 by 1080 kind of website size. And I'm just going to do that by tapping that area right there. That's going to go ahead and open that up. Cornell says hello. Well, hello to you too. I hope everything's going good for everybody on this Monday morning. And okay, cool. So we have this open. We have XD open. We're ready to get working. But you might be going, I don't really know my way around. What do I do? Let me show you. XD is really, really simple to navigate. And if you've used Illustrator or Photoshop, some of it's going to be really familiar. Some of it will be a little bit different. But we'll explain those things to you right now. Down the left-hand side, we have the Tools panel. You have the arrow kind of pointer clicker tool, the select tool. We have shapes like rectangles, ellipses, and polygons. Polygons are really cool because they can be any number of sizes on that shape. We have line tools, we have pen tools, typography, artboards, and zoom, which is always my favorite thing to bring up, is that XD is an artboard system, which is absolutely amazing. So we have one artboard here, and by simply either selecting the artboard tool or hitting the hotkey of A right there, we get over in our inspector panel on the right-hand side a number of pre-designated sizes for artboards. So if we want an iPhone, we just do that, and there's our iPhone. If we want maybe also a tablet, we can drop one of those on there as well. And then you can just keep dropping artboards all over the place. Now we have multiple artboards, which is really, really cool. A lot of the other tools are going to work really similar if you've ever used any Adobe tools, but if we had a rectangle, let's say I hit R for rectangle and drag one of those out, now we have a shape and we can fill it. And what's always good to point out is, depending on what you're using, what you're interacting with, this inspector panel is going to be contextual to any element that you are working with. So if I'm working with a shape, I get things to fill that shape, options to mess with its transparency and rotation. If I'm messing with the artboard itself, I get some different options over here in the right-hand panel. If I hit T for text and drop some text on the page, like so, and let's zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're working on. And I make sure that that is point text and just make it really, really big here so we can see everything that we're doing. If I have some text on my screen, you can see now I get typography options, alignment, different fonts to use, weights, options, as well as fill and all the other good stuff as well. So that's a contextual panel, and that's a good thing to remember. I think always in every design software, and XD is no exception, we have to have a layers panel. So when we are working inside of an artboard, we can double click on that artboard and head into the layers that are there in that artboard. So you can see I have my text right here and I have my rectangle. You can grab any element inside the layers panel and drag and drop and move those around. You can also hide them and lock them, and you can mark them for export as well with that icon. And so you have your layers panel. Pretty easy stuff, right? Basic stuff. Now let's get to some cool stuff. Some of my favorite stuff about XD. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, which I'll move my head for a second so you can see, the left-hand corner of this left panel, we're currently on our layers panel. Well, I told you earlier, I just downloaded a plugin that I was really, really excited about, the Glitch plugin, and I did that by switching over to the plugin space. These are all the plugins that I have downloaded and that I'm using inside of XD. If I want a new plugin, I can just hit this little plus at the top here. And that opens up my plugins modal, and I can find all sorts of cool plugins. I can search specifically for something I'm looking for. I can discover maybe like what's the editor's choice this week. We got things for maps and charts and organizing and renaming and photos and avatars and illustrations, all sorts of fun things. We're going to be covering a lot of that stuff in the rest of the streams throughout the challenges. I'll share with you some of my favorite plugins, and if you have ones that you really love, let me know. I would love to hear about it. But also, on top of plugins and layers, we have the new libraries panel. You can see right down there, libraries. This used to be styles or assets, but now it is the libraries panel. This is where the integration inside of the Adobe Creative Cloud, just the suite just works so nicely. So you can see we have our documents, our document library, and we have all of our other libraries. So again, when we open up our Creative Cloud app and I go over to my work, we can see all of our libraries in here. Here's a library I have that's full of donuts. Because why wouldn't you want a library full of donuts? I wish I had a real library full of donuts. Well, if I close my Creative Cloud app and I go over here, you can see I also have that library that's filled with, you guessed it, donuts. So then I can grab any one of those and bring them on to my artboard and start designing and doing some really fun stuff. Let's make a little donut card really quickly, shall we? I'm going to put some drop shadow with my shape selected and just blur it out and just move it over. I'm going to bring the transparency of it down a little bit. I'm going to grab my artboard and actually fill my artboard with a little bit of a neutral color. I'm going to bring my text inside and call this one the Blue Meanie. That's the name of this one. And why don't I select a little bit more of a fun piece of typography, something like Poppins, Howard Pinsky's favorite font, and one of mine as well. He got me really, really into it, and I can't stop using it. I'm addicted to it. All right, so let's put that inside of our donut card as well, and shrink our donut a little bit down. I like it overhanging like that. Well, we bring another piece of type down, and then let's zoom in so we can actually see that this little handle at the bottom, when we are selecting area, or excuse me, auto width text, we have auto height and we have fixed size. So I can grab the handle at the bottom and just shrink this down. If I don't want to shrink it down that way, I can be more precise inside of the inspector panel. I can even do things like divided by 2, and I can bring the size of my text down that way, which is pretty cool. Did you know you could do math inside the inspector panel? Really fun, really cool stuff. Let's choose a lighter weight and maybe even a lighter color. And let's do, how much for a dozen? Let's do $12.99, and we'll do USD, United States dollars, like that, and put it right underneath. And that could be pretty cool. All right, so we're starting to build a little card. It could be something small, much simpler than adding, you know, we don't have to add a whole lot to it, but we just want to show the building of a little bit of a UI asset right there. Okay, that could be our first asset, and we can grab that and we could group the whole thing together. I press Command or Control G to do that, depending on your operating system. And then that's it. So we integrated things into our from our library into our design. Really, really simple stuff. Let's keep cruising now that we've seen our layers and our plugins and all of our libraries. Let's say I really, really like this color of the donut though. Before I move on, I want to do this. I really like this blue color, and I want to make sure that I add that into my library so I can use it with my donuts later. I'm going to select that color. I'm going to head down to the bottom here. I'm going to add an element. I'm going to say, hey, add the fill color. And now we have a color that's inside of our panel. This means later on, if we grab an element, we can just select it, and that's going to go ahead and apply that color, that brand color, to any element in our project. You know what's really, really cool about this? So if I come back later and I want to edit this, we should be able to edit it somehow. We can move, copy, duplicate, add to a group, add a description, or we can copy the color. So we'll talk more about like editing and doing all that stuff in libraries later, but I just wanted to show you that. That's a pretty cool one. All right, up at the top, we have the name of our project that we're currently working on, and we can save it by clicking here and rename it. You can do all that fun stuff. And we've already talked about the contextual panel on the right-hand side. I'm going to open up a new file, one that has a little bit more design work done, and move right into that one so I can show you some fun things inside of Adobe XD. And then we're going to do a little bit of design work. And you don't have to have any of this. You can just watch and take it all in. But starting tomorrow, there's going to be starting files for everybody. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So you can see I have a new file open. It's a smartwatch interface that I was designing a little bit earlier. And I have, you'll notice, this little flow tag above this screen. Well, what that means is there's a prototype taking place, and when I tap the flow, I realize that it has to do with these elements right here, these artboards. And I can actually grab the flow and move the whole flow around, which is pretty nice. But now you see the power of Adobe XD. It's not just in designing, it's in prototyping. So if we head over to our prototype tab up here on the top left, we can actually see all the prototyping work that's going on. Whoa, I'm kind of jumping around kind of crazy. But now you can see the prototyping work that's going on. I actually have the artboard selected, and you can see that with the artboard selected, I have a prototype happening from that. And that's just this little line. If I want to add a new one, let's say maybe on an element itself, I can grab my little arrow and drag it over to a new artboard, and that creates the linked up kind of action in between my prototype. Well, now I need to designate how this thing should prototype. How is it wired up? Well, with that selected, you can see my contextual panel has changed. I'm saying, what's the trigger type here? Is it when I tap it? Is it when I drag it? Is it when I hook up my Xbox or whatever controller to my machine and I can actually do games and keypad like on my keyboard? Or is it a voice trigger? Let's just do a simple tap trigger like that. And we can do things as simple as a normal transition to really cool stuff like auto animate. We have overlays and scroll to like anchor links. We can go to previous artboard, audio playback, or speech playback. Let's do a simple transition for now on this one. And then we want to head over. You can see it says our destination is the record artboard. Well, that's this one right here. And what type of animation do we want? Maybe a slide left for this one. And we also get some easing options. I'm going to do maybe a snap, and let's change the timing of it to 0.5 seconds. Then when we're here, why don't we just prototype our way back? One of the coolest features, one of my favorite about Adobe XD is when I prototype back, it saves all of the previous settings for my prototype, all the options that I selected. It's going to match them. So all of a sudden we're building a consistent prototype and rhythm throughout the entire project. Well, now you can see when I press play, let's kind of scroll down here so we get out of the way, and let's zoom in. You can see what I had is a timed actually transition between two artboards. It's not looking so great, but if I click on it, you can see that I slide right over just like we prototyped, sliding over and sliding back. Now maybe we don't like sliding the same way both directions. I can just come in here and fix that up, going from slide left to slide right. And now we just prototype back and forth like that. And that's how your prototypes come to life. We have timed animations and auto animate and all sorts of fun things. And that is just it's just awesome. It's a way to deliver amazing prototypes that people can actually play with and interact with. Well, we've looked at the design tab and we've looked at the prototype tab. What's the share tab over here? We should definitely take a look at that. Once we have all of our work the way we like it, if we want to, we can head over to the share tab. We can choose our flow, and then we can create a link for that. So this link is called Flow 1, and there's different settings of how you want to share it. What's the purpose and how are you sharing this piece of work? Is it for design review? Is it development? Do you need to offer code and downloadable assets? Let's do that. That could be pretty fun. And then anybody with the link. So we're going to go ahead and press create the link, and Adobe XD is going to create a shareable link for us that we can now share with stakeholders, team members, decision makers, or clients, which is really fun. Let's tap on that link and let's see what it looks like inside of the Adobe kind of share area. Okay, so we are loading up that link and we can see our flow, and it's animating just like it was inside of our prototype, and we can click on it and see the prototype happen just like we could back in XD. What's also really cool here is because this is a development environment, the first thing we can do is we're on the comment section. We can make a comment like, this is pretty cool, and we can submit that. If we want to, we can pin specifically and say, this animation is glitchy, right? So we want somebody to fix that up. And then lastly, we can head over to the dev area where we can actually hover over different elements and see the measurements between each of the elements. Like if I tap on this, I can see it's 112 pixels from the top. It's 30 from the side. That's really helpful. But what if I want to like download something? Can I get any stuff like that? I'm going to get this element, like this little icon here. And if we would have marked it for export, actually, we'd be able to download those elements. But we can see that there's an interaction involved, all the colors that are there, and then we can also get code options as well later on when we just kind of direct our share options a little bit better. But that's how we kind of share our work. I think that's pretty cool. Let's head back to design and let's talk about one more thing before we get going. How do we present our work? Well, Behance is going to be a great place for you to present your work throughout the challenges. You're going to want to share on Discord and start building your portfolio on Behance. It's a great thing to do. You can upload individual challenges on Behance at the end of each day or at the end of each challenge, or you can start combining them into one long running XD Daily Creative Challenge portfolio piece that has every single challenge as you go through the few weeks. And so a way to do that would be you can export all the individual elements like this if you want, selecting the artboards, heading up to File, and exporting the batch or the selected ones or all the artboards. You can even send them to After Effects if you want to do some really cool stuff. But we can also maybe add some presentational elements, like we have this little frame for an Apple Watch sitting here. And what we can do is, you'll notice in this project, in my libraries panel, I actually have a component that is one of my artboards. This entire artboard I have turned into a component. Why would I want to do that? Well, let me show you. I can drag that component out and make sure that it's lined up over here with my watch. I can drop it behind, and there it is. I have this single element that is now presentationally ready to export. Why would I make it? You might be asking yourself, why did you make it a component? Why did you make it something that you could reuse over and over? Well, I'll tell you what, if I don't like this card, I might want to move it around. I might want to rotate it. I might want to turn on somehow like 3D transforms and do something really fun there. But if you notice, anytime I move something here, it moves it over there as well. That's the power of components, right? If I change, or if I find my master component, where is my master component? Here it is. Let's bring this guy onto our paste board. And I say, hey, I want to edit the main component. There it is right there. And I've decided I don't want this to be purple. I want it to be green. Well, it's going to change everywhere that component's being used. So that's silly of us to not be using that component over here. We should definitely be using the component in all of our artboards. Again, that way if we want to change the color, we can do that really, really simply, really easily, just like that. And so components are a huge thing. Throughout the challenges, we'll talk about component states, adding different states to each one of these components so that you can have something like a button like this that has not only this state, but also the flex state. And it's hard to tell, but there's some little lines that are kind of going in and out or radiating in and out of our design. Let's see if we can see it over here. There we go. So we have the original state and we have the default state. If I wanted to create a hover state, I could do that. I just come down and edit my main component. Let's create a hover state really, really quickly. And what should this hover state look like? Well, let's, why don't we change the color a little bit to kind of a purpley color? That could be kind of fun. Let's go back to our default state. Well, now when we, oh man, we're getting some weird hover effects. but you know, all sorts of things you can do inside of XD, a lot of fun, and you can do them better than I'm doing right now. But with our presentational element ready, now we could, if we wanted to, go ahead and export this element by pressing Command or Control E for export, or heading up to export and selecting the selected one. We want to do maybe a PNG here and call this our watch UI. Let's export that to our desktop. And there we have it, a nice watch UI. We could head over to Behance, and why don't we create a new project? We have a few minutes left before we go, and I want to go ahead and upload that image. I would definitely want to have more than just this single image if I was actually creating a project, but this could be a good start for me. So I'm going to upload that image. Maybe I want to put some text inside here as well. Let's call this watch UI design, like that, and that could be pretty cool. Now, why don't we even, if we have all sorts of stuff we could upload inside of Behance. Maybe you have a photo grid, maybe you have a video that you recorded. You could do that in XD by previewing it and then hitting this record button. Well, for some reason my computer's having problems today, pardon me. But we can also embed like different code, or like the actual prototype itself. It could be really, really fun, but we can continue on and upload like just a little bit of a project cover and some information, and go ahead and save this and post this to Behance as our project. And this is what we want you to do, making sure that you're using that hashtag XD Creative Challenge. And that's pretty much it for the day. So I'm really, really excited to be doing this creative challenge with you guys. Stay tuned for Doodle Therapy with Susan Lin and Alice Lee. We got a lot more content coming for you each and every day right here on Behance. So stay tuned, don't leave. Can't wait to do the challenge with you each and every day. Make sure you're signed up and be ready tomorrow, same time, same place, to get cracking inside of the XD Daily Creative Challenge. Until tomorrow, we will see you later.